I think one thing to always like kind of like deduce is I think when it comes to psychology, and this is my opinion, psychology like applied biomechanics, like nutrition, anything like that, anyone that talks in absolute, like get the hell away from them. Like anyone that's like, I have the absolute answer, like run the other direction, right? Because no one has the answers, especially without context, especially without knowing what this person is actually going through, where they're going, what they're trying to accomplish.
This is why there's so much more to learn when it comes to like your training, right? Your training journey, because I thought I knew a lot, you know what I mean? And when I did the personal training course, it's just like, wow. I was like, literally, I was speechless because I thought I knew, like, I thought I knew a lot at all.
But believe me, man, even me, like 6 years in, like going on 6 years, man, like every time I learn something, it's like, you know, it's like I opened another door of like,
to another episode.
Welcome to another episode of Mendable Hustler Podcast. I'm your boy G, your host, and my co-host Arturo, and we have a special guest today with us, a father, a husband, one of the best personal trainers in Ottawa, David.
I don't know if I'm the best personal trainer, but thanks for the intro.
Yes. So David, of course we know who you are, you know, for those who don't know who you are, can you tell us more about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a personal trainer. I've been a personal trainer going on about 6 years now, mostly one-on-one training.
Yeah.
And I was initially working at a bigger commercial gym, and now I am working from a private space, opening my own company. So yeah, having a ton of fun doing that.
That's great. For one of the reasons I wanted you to come to our podcast, because the knowledge that you have, it's just amazing, you know.
Thank you, man.
And I remember like when we first linked up and started talking about fitness, and I literally didn't know that you were a personal trainer. And then when I found out that you were a personal trainer, but we really weren't in contact like we are now. But I remember when you came over to my house when we had a barbecue, and then we were just talking about fitness, and then you're like, yeah, we should get in the gym sometimes, you know, like we should. I could show you some of the things, and little did I know that I thought I was like on my personal training journey, like training myself. I thought I knew a lot, you know, which a lot of people think that too, right? A lot of people think that they know a lot once they work out. Of course, when you you build your body to a kind of certain way, you feel like you know a lot, right? But fast forward, we met up. You said that you wanted to show me some techniques that it could help me improve my squatting and bench press and deadlift. And we met up at my gym.
Yeah. And
when you showed me my squat, I wasn't doing right, and which until this day I just keep it increasing. You know what I mean? I just keep beating my PR every time because of the technique that you showed me, and I just knew there was so much room for improvement. So before I go on, is there anything you want to say?
Sure. So, of course, me and David don't really know each other that well.
Yeah.
So I don't really have any stories to go on. And, I'll start out with a question.
Right.
Sure.
Right. So through previous podcasts, me and Nelson have discussed about, individuals who really don't know themselves, right? In terms of like whenever you go to college, trying to figure out exactly what you want to be. And off camera, I did hear a conversation with you, Jelson, in terms of like when you went off to college and you took certain programs, but in doing so, you really don't know, right? You think you have an idea of what you want to do, but going through college and doing the programs that you did, it wasn't exactly what you envisioned.
Yes.
So if you could share like some ideas in terms of like how do you go about selecting whatever it is that you do in college or something like that?
That's actually a pretty good question. So I actually had this conversation with another client. I think, in my honest opinion, the main way to find out like what do you really want to do, I think what most people do is they look at like the titles and they go through the sections and they're like, okay, do I want to be an accountant? Do I want to be a doctor, lawyer, all the way down to chef and janitor? And in my opinion, that's probably not the best way to go about it. For me personally, I've always kind of like weighed out my options, which is why I'm so good at so many different things. I would say average, like dancing, martial arts, weightlifting, all that other stuff. Yeah. But I think the best way to figure out who you are through the job title that you want to do is to first find out what makes you feel fulfilled in your own life. Because the thing is I'm a person that likes to put a smile on people's face. I enjoy increasing the quality of someone's life. Now, I can project that working at McDonald's, absolutely, right? Because I know who I am. The reality is I found a way that I can better project that. I found a job title that allows me to better project that. Now, who knows? This might not be the final page in my fulfillment kind of like position that I found in life. Maybe I might be a speaker, right? Maybe I might be a pastor of a church. That could be a possibility. But the reality is I found a way to kind of centralize that energy through a position that I really wanted to find. And the reality is I think that most people can find their fulfillment in really anything and then just figure out afterwards what is the best position that I can get into to allow myself to project that fulfillment forward.
Okay. Yeah. And to follow along with that question, we also discussed about a quote. And the quote, I don't necessarily remember the entire quote itself, so I'm paraphrasing. Mm-hmm. The quote was something about you'll find your future success or something about your future based on your daily habits.
No, so it's the secret to your success.
No, the secret to your future.
The secret to your future is hidden on your daily routine.
Yeah, can you share your thoughts on that quote?
Yeah, sure. I absolutely agree with that quote. I mean, I think character is really a derivative. I guess my words of like your ability to execute certain motor patterns daily. I think that that's like kind of like the best position. Anyone can learn themselves into anything that they really want to do, especially when it comes to their future, right? Which is why it is that I kind of stay away from words like I'm going to pronounce myself as an introvert, because the reality is once you tell yourself you're an introvert, then now you've accepted that you have a limitation that then you cannot build on, right? So the reality becomes like, if I'm going to project habits that can dictate my ability to find a way to control my future, then I'm going to put myself in that position where I'm going to figure out the causes of my circumstance, and then how can I apply that notion, whatever it is I'm trying to accomplish, into smaller sections that will get me closer to where I'm trying to go. So if it's, let's say, a person that's an introvert, maybe they might need to expose themselves daily to something that's going to put them in a position where they are then, learning the motor patterns and the skills to be able to develop a personality that will allow them to be far better an extrovert, I guess you could say, right?
So in the end, you're only limited by the limits you place upon yourself.
That's right. Okay. Right? So like some people will be like, okay, well, my future is only going to be this because I've only attained this. And it's like, no, because regardless of what you've attained, people gain opportunity, or not opportunity, but fulfillment through progress. Right? So it's like if you are consistently like, even if you've attained a certain outcome, so you got the car, you might want either another car or a better car, right? So it really comes down to those daily habits, absolutely, that are going to be a derivative of where you're going to be in the future. Absolutely. So I agree with that.
Yeah, this is the same thing. I totally agree with that because, like, you know, I have a routine for myself, and that is really the secret to say, for me to be in this position in my life. You know what I mean? Just happily married and so much more goals that I'm chasing. And I know with my routine, if I do it consistently, I'm gonna get there eventually, right? It's just a matter of time and faith, right? But it just shows the difference to my earlier struggles in my life, that when I didn't have no purpose whatsoever to look after, or no thing to chase after, or why, and to kind of like, to the difference between then and now that I have a purpose, I have a routine, I have things to live for, and there's that big why, you know what I mean? It's just like every day you wake up, you looking up to something, you know what I mean? That changes everything. So it's really, like you said, it's like the things you really only limit yourself, and like you said, you know what I mean? You just limit yourself, that when you can't go and when you think that you can't achieve anything else, you just like literally limiting yourself. But one of the questions that I had is fitness was always something that you were in love with?
Yeah, I would say, well, as far as just movement goes, like just moving the body, that was like something that was like so important to me. I mean, I would say that like my inspiration is like from TV shows and movies, right? When I was a kid, I loved Jackie Chan and Jet Li.
Yeah.
I loved Dragon Ball Z,
right?
Like Power Rangers, right? So like for me, it was always like, I want to inspire to be like them. I mean, when I had a higher imagination, right?
Yeah.
So I enjoyed just movement, running, jumping, being able to, when I go to a park, just like, you know, swing around on monkey bars and stuff like that. I would think it was like super cool to do that, right? And then I think it just transformed into something over time that became a part of my life, a part of who I am. I think that the aspect of being fit wasn't actually the thing that I was trying to aim for. I think what I was trying to do was a lot of things that I found very cool and that inspired me, I wanted to be able to do them. Right. And so, yeah, like to answer your question, yeah, has fitness been a part of my life? Yeah, absolutely, like my whole life. But like I said, that was never kind of like the fit came as a byproduct of the inspiration.
So what age you like when you really started like working out like seriously and like in the gym?
That's actually good that you said it seriously, because I mean, when I was a kid, my uncle put me in martial arts, and I just go there and just kind of talk.
Also, the first thing was martial arts before I started lifting weights.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So it was actually kung fu school in Montreal, and I didn't pay attention.
You grew up in Toronto, right?
No. So I lived in Montreal. My parents moved to Ottawa, and then me and my brothers and my sisters were like, we're not staying in Ottawa. So then we moved to Toronto.
Instead of Montreal, you guys moved to Toronto?
No, yeah, so we moved from Montreal to Ottawa. And then,
okay, your sister and your brothers moved to Toronto.
So then we moved to Toronto, and then
So you went to school in Toronto?
No, I went to school in Montreal, actually.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So how come you don't speak French?
Ben oui, je parle français.
Ben oui.
Yes.
You speak French?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Nice. I actually didn't know you speak French.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know, man.
Yeah.
Because I thought this whole time you grew up in Toronto.
Yeah, no.
Then your parents or your moms was here.
Yeah, no.
Then you came over to visit every once in a while.
No, yeah. So actually, what was funny is that your wife actually heard me speak French, and she was like, "You speak French?" Yeah. Quite fluently, as well. Yeah.
That's great, man. That's interesting. Yeah. So, you went to school. You said you took personal training.
No, so I took computer graphic design as like a vocational course.
Okay. That's crazy. Tell us about that.
it was like a
Vocational course.
2-year.
I never really heard about that.
Yeah, I think in Ontario it would be called like a GED or something. Probably GED, kind of similar. I'm not sure.
Oh, never. You ever heard that?
So it's more hands-on than like university is more theoretical.
Yeah.
This was more practical.
I guess it could be called apprenticeship.
Yeah, kind of like
Oh, okay. It has to be apprenticeship. That's what we call it back
But in
here.
high school, it's not
Co-op.
It's not
Co-op.
well, yeah, but it's that like a course that you are given 2 years for. Apprenticeship is just something you
Something
take
you go
on the side.
The side.
Yeah,
Like there's some courses like Algonquin that you have to take before you enroll in the course. You also have to do apprenticeship, or you do the course, and then the other semester you do apprenticeship. It's like
yeah.
you go
Sometimes
do
it could be like a stage.
that certain course,
Yeah.
hands-on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was like, I don't know if this is something that I, really wanted to do. I mean, I ended up getting the certification for it.
Yeah.
But I was like, right. And I while I was taking that, I was doing some accounting stuff. So I was like, where do I want to go? Because at the end of the day, I was like,
Still
what?
trying to figure out.
It's like I find that like our school systems don't really prepare us for life.
No.
Right,
No.
and that's the issue. I think why people have a hard time like figuring out their purpose.
Yes.
Right, because it's like if you go to school and there's a grading system and it's like, oh, I'm just supposed to get over 60% to pass. Then it's like everything
That
you do
stresses
in
you
life
out, yeah.
is just about that grading system, and you're
Right.
like, okay, well, I need to
Suck
get a
in
job
school.
just to pay my bills.
Seriously.
I need to be able to do this just to get right. So like you're just consistently doing this thing. And now you're like, this sense of self is completely lost. And I think sometimes too that might be attributed to like your upbringing as well, right? Like if you had parents that worked a specific job or something like that, then you might be inclined to say, hey, like because I'm bred in this thing, I might just do it. But then over time, I think, like I said, finding that fulfillment and purpose, it really comes down to like, I have to discover who I am. And
Getting to know yourself.
Yes.
I said it before.
And the best
Yes.
way to get to know yourself is actually through some semblance of pain. Right? Because and not instant pain, more like long-term struggle. Right? Because like when you struggle and you actually have to like get out from there and find a different mentality, you then figure out things about yourself you didn't know. Right?
It's
A lot of
true.
people are like, I can't find.
So it's kind of like you kind of like get to yourself more when you go to a lot of struggle.
Yes. So like that
Just
struggle could be,
because-
it's very subjective,
Yeah.
right? Because like the struggle could be as something as simple as like, I'm gonna dedicate my time to working this job for the next 3 years. Like even if it's something that like I don't enjoy, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna do this for 3 years so that I can get into the next position of my life. If you can do that, you're gonna discover things about yourself that you didn't know before. But the thing is that I think that a lot of people end up expecting more than they're willing to give. Right? If that makes sense.
Yeah, that's
So then what happens is that they do something. Let's say they start this job and they hate this job. They're mopping the floors, let's say, or whatever the job position is.
yeah.
And then they do it, and then they're like, I don't actually like this.
And I'm gonna sacrifice.
I'm just gonna stop.
Oh, okay.
Right? And so then when you stop doing it, it's hard to figure out like, who am I? Right? Because when you dedicate sacrifice to something, right, you end up really finding out like if we kind of segue it to like working out, like
Yeah.
I know who a person is based on the workout. I can do certain workouts with certain clients that I've never, or not a client, but a potential prospective.
Yeah.
And I know what their character is. They can tell me anything.
Yeah. You could just.
But I can tell if you're fighting for it, I know what your character is like, right? If I talk to you about your lifestyle, I can figure out what type of mentality you have just based on the dedication that you have to certain things, right?
That's great, man. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah, so this question goes back to your current job as being a personal trainer. So as a motivational channel, we try to give advice to people to motivate them to get out there and make the changes to better themselves.
Yeah.
But one important thing that we all know, that in order for those changes to come, they actually have to go out and do it, right? So what are some of the challenges that people have that prevent them from actually doing the things that they know they're supposed to do?
I think the number one challenge is that we all know that we have to have a goal, right? I think the number one challenge is that most people believe that the goal is too high. They don't think about the how. They just think like, okay, this is what I'm trying to accomplish, and these are my circumstances, so it's probably not attainable, right? That will be the first struggle, I think, from just starting.
Right.
The second is a reward system. So you see, like me and Justin, we've been working out for a little while. Like I've been working out consecutively for 9.5 years. Like 17 years.
Longer than me, of course. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm consistently functioning at no less than 75% capacity, like how I feel in terms of energy, in terms of vitality. No less than 75% capacity. The average person that doesn't work out, doesn't take care of themselves, 30 to 45%.
I seen this.
Right.
This quote that I actually seen in the book, and it's the more you work out, the more energy you're creating for yourself.
Yes. So that's the thing, right? So like if a person functions at 30 to 45%, what's the reward system for them working out? They're gonna go work out, they're gonna feel sore, they're gonna hate it.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's why it becomes increasingly difficult as trainers for us to recommend certain things to our clients. We don't recognize it because to us, we've been working out forever. Right?
Yeah.
So it's so easy to be like, just go work out.
Yes.
Oh, it's so easy to be like, oh, you drink alcohol every day? Just cut it out once a week or something. Yeah. And then like drink 6 days a week. It's so easy for us to say that because we understand the reward system that comes with not drinking. If I don't drink, I know what my workout's gonna feel like tomorrow.
Yes.
I'm gonna function at that like above 75% capacity. If John, who functions at 30 to 45%, he's like, listen, I'm not really happy with my life. I'm unfulfilled. My friend just came over and brought alcohol. Tomorrow I'm gonna do a workout. I feel like crap. I'm gonna feel like crap anyway. At least I'll feel good right now. So he's gonna drink the alcohol. Right? He's gonna stay up. So I think the starting point is really just having that goal, starting, and then figuring out the how based on the circumstances the person is dealt.
Okay, so to simplify things, the two things that you're mentioning, the two challenges that people face is setting realistic goals.
Yes.
And having some sort of reward system.
Yes.
To keep them moving forward.
That's right.
Okay.
So it's great. Let's stay on this topic. And we're talking about like just getting to the person to start into their fitness. So I came up with this thing, right? Because I'm very big into like motivation, getting people to do stuff.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I tell people when they come to me, they get motivated when they see me, the results of me, my progress on working out. And one thing that I tell them that helped me in the beginning was instead of them focusing on the result, focus on like creating the habit of exercising, going to the gym. Because for me, I was never really out of shape because I was being athletic all my life, right? But when I wanted to like put on some size and be really to achieve that goal that I set when I was starting working out, I knew I had to develop that habit of like 6 days in the gym or 5 days in the gym or whatever, But to build that consistency, that's what people lack the most, right? It's like, new year, I'm going to the gym every single day. And then for a certain period of time, because it's not part of the daily habits, they tend to stop after slacking a couple days, right? So one of the things that I tell them is, that's what helped me. So I tell them, I teach people through my experience.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So one of the things that I tell them is, don't focus on like, oh, you want to get 6 packs, you want to gain 10 pounds. Focus on creating that habit, going to the gym consistently every week. You know what I mean? But create small goals. Don't create bigger goals. Like, let's say every day of the week that that like depends on your schedule. We all have different schedules, right? Every day of the week, let's say Monday, off Monday, you don't have anything on Monday, make that day your gym. Just Mondays, and do that consistently. Once you master the Monday, increase another day, and just goes on and goes on. But don't focus on results. Just focus on like, okay, now I'm consistently going to the gym. Now, okay, what do I need to do? What kind of workout should I do now? You know what I mean? Now you develop of learning what type of exercise that you need to do on the goals that you're setting. Any thoughts on
So
that?
this is what I tell most people. There are 3 steps.
Yeah.
The way that I see it, there's motivation, consistency, and habits.
Right.
So motivation is like the engine that starts your car, right? Like you put the key in the ignition, but you still have to drive it, right?
Yes.
I think the motivation has to come from that cue. Like there's got to be something in your life that puts you in a position where you almost need to do something. It's like it's not a want. It's not something that's like it's like I need to actually do something about this.
It's
So
something that gets you pumped.
Yeah, sometimes that could be like maybe not even just pump. Sometimes that could be like you saw Jelson working out and like he looks fit.
Yeah.
So I need to look fit, right? For whatever reason that person has. Or maybe it could be like a doctor told this person, listen, like you got to start taking care of yourself or this can get really bad for you.
Right.
That's the motivational standpoint. So those are just some examples.
Yeah.
Consistency requires accountability, right? So like accountability could be like your friend. It could be me, right? It could be like a coach. It could be a trainer. It could be, right? Like anyone who's going to keep you consistent. Now, when it comes to the consistency,
So accountability is very huge when it comes to
consistency.
A personal trainer.
Yes,
When you have a personal trainer.
that's right. Yeah,
So a lot of people get personal trainers not only just for
knowledge.
workouts,
Yeah,
but for accountability.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So the thing is I think like consistency and habits get like meld together, right? But like consistency can be like anything. It doesn't necessarily have to be a habit. It just means you're doing something more often, right?
Yeah.
And it's hard to go from motivation to consistency without having accountability for most people.
Yeah.
Because you're going from like, you're motivated, I started,
But don't you have to create that habit for you to have that consistency?
not necessarily.
Right? No?
So I see what you mean.
Because
But like at
that's-
that point, it's just a habit. Because consistency requires mental stimuli, right? Like, I mean, I don't claim to be a guy that understands like bioanatomy or anything like
Yeah.
that, but like you have like the neocortex, which is like the decision-making process of your brain, right? So every time you make a decision or you're going to make a decision, you have to think about it. That's the consistency pattern, because now it's like, okay, at 9 a.m. on Tuesday and 6 p.m. on Wednesday, I'm going to take this mic and I'm going to put it to the air. You have to think about it. A habit it's no longer required in consistency because it's a part of who you are. You know every day at 9 o'clock, or maybe not 9 o'clock, but every day when you wake up in the morning time, you're just going to take this mic and put it above your head. If you woke up at like 9 a.m., you're going to do it at 9:05. If you woke up at 11 a.m., you're going to do it at 11:05 because now it's a habit. It's become a part of your life. An example I like to use of a habit would be like brushing your teeth. I got this from a manager at my big commercial gym and I like using it, right?
It's perfect.
Because it's the truth,
It's
right?
perfect, yeah.
It's like you're going to brush your teeth in the morning time before you leave the house.
Yes.
You know how important it is, but you're not thinking about consistency.
No, it's a habit.
It's just a habit. You just do it. Whether you woke up at 4 p.m., you woke up at 6 a.m. in the morning, you're going to do it before you leave the house, right? Now, maybe there is some small population that's not important to them, or they were not taught that, but the reality is that they don't have to think about it, and therefore it's become a part of their life. No, consistency is no longer required.
Yeah.
It's like different grades,
Yes.
right? Before you reach a habit, you gotta first get through consistency.
Nice.
Now the thing is that like when you're developing consistency, I think the number one thing that in order to get to that transition from consistency to habit is that a lot of the tasks that you're doing to get to a particular goal have to be set into that habitual state, right? So you can't go like, okay, now I'm consistent in the gym, I'm working out like 3-4 days a week,
Yeah.
right? And you want to go from it just being consistent to a habit. You then have to implement that into a time of day that requires your mind to just do it, right? So an example is like, you can't go from like training like 9 a.m., 6 p.m. on Wednesday, like 10 a.m. like on Thursday and Friday at like, right? You can't, right? So as it comes to the transition from consistency to habit, I think like the hardest part is finding an actual stable time of day to do specific tasks that are required to transfer into that habit standpoint, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you can't train. If let's say we're using exercising as an example, you can't go from consistency, which is like I'm training 3-4 days a week. Monday it's at 9 o'clock, and then Wednesday it's at 6 p.m. and then like Friday it's like at 10 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
That's the consistency, because you're doing it 3 times a week. But when you're transferring it into a habit, you then have to place it in a time of day that is very close to something that you just do. An example would be like every time I wake up, I go train. There's not an actual specific time of day, right? It happens to me all the time sometimes, like just to kind of like segue, like in that habitual state, like you're not thinking about it. Sometimes I'm driving to a specific destination, but I'm so used that when I'm driving on that specific highway that I'm going to a specific place. If I'm not thinking, let's say I'm like on the phone, on the Bluetooth talking to someone or something like that, I might actually go to the destination that I'm normally gonna go on that highway without thinking. But I'm trying to go somewhere else. Has that ever happened to you, where you're driving, where you know, like let's say like if you're driving on like the 417 or whatever, right? And every day, every morning, 417, you're going to this like specific Starbucks, whatever, right? Then now it's like you're on that 417 because you're going somewhere completely different, but you end up at the Starbucks. You're like, how did I get here? I'm not going here. I'm going somewhere else.
Yeah.
Because it's a habit. It's
There
really
is
creating your mind.
there is something, it's called automaticity. It's where your habits become so ingrained within you
Yeah,
that you don't realize that your body is an autopilot,
that's right.
and it basically does everything for you. So knowing that, it's basically knowing that there's a positive and there's a negative to becoming so ingrained within your habits that you can just lose yourself.
Yeah.
You can do things that you're not thinking about. So
That's right.
It's very important to balance it out and always stay conscious of what you're doing.
Well, that's the thing, right? It can be. It's a very good point, because those habits of like just that, like doing things without actually having to think about it, sometimes that can be ingrained from systems that are not good for you.
Yes.
Long term, right?
Yeah.
So it's so important to be able to develop. I think the good ones are harder to develop because it requires, like, you know, the bad ones, it's easy because there's a reward system. If I like eating candy every single morning, right, it's easy for me to develop that consistency because I like tasting the candy, right? I'm getting that reward system. But if it's like something that like I might not enjoy as much and there's not an instantaneous gratification or a reward system, then it's a little bit harder to end up building that, right?
Like waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, and doing a workout, yeah. But I don't think people have to actually push themselves, and that's the issue, right?
Yeah.
Is I think, in my opinion, like when you have to
It's
push yourself.
doing what works for you.
Yes.
Because that's what I tell people all the time, right? When people be like, yo, gee, how do you wake up 3 o'clock in the morning? Because I always been a morning person, right? So when I like developed the consistency and turned it into a habit, it just became autopilot, right? But because me being a morning person, it wasn't so hard for me to develop that habit.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And so for someone that's trying to do that, they literally have to either, like, let's say if I'm trying to sleep in,
Yeah.
it's hard for me to sleep in because my body automatically wakes me up. So for me to get more sleep, I have to go to bed super, super, super early, because or else I'm gonna be like struggling to like go back to sleep, or I'm just gonna stay in bed like.
Right.
And I'm tired,
Yeah.
but because my body's so used to it getting up at that time,
Yeah.
but it just forced me up to get up earlier. Now one thing that I switch is going to bed earlier so I
Yeah.
can get more sleep.
Because when you push yourself to do something that's difficult,
Yeah.
there's a negative connotation that comes with that, and like your brain remembers that. Like if you go to the gym on your first week and you absolutely kill yourself, like your first week you haven't trained for like 10 years or something like that,
hard.
you are going to feel like you got ran over by a truck.
Yeah.
Your brain is going to signal a negative like consistency with that workout, and it's going to be like, don't go back there. Like that's not you not wanting to go. That's just your brain protecting you, because your mind does not know whether you got run over by a truck or if you actually did just a workout.
Yes.
It's like with that place you went to, you were running away from a tiger that was about to eat you. Don't go back there.
Yeah.
Right? So like it's always about like developing a system that's palatable. It's so important.
Yeah.
Right? Find a system that's palatable for you based on your circumstances, and then over time you can gradually add on to it, because once you get into that habitual system, you no longer have to think about things, right? So if I every morning I eat breakfast, and breakfast was the thing that I needed to eat to get to my goal. Let's say we're just using that as an example. And I mastered just habitually eating breakfast every morning. Now, if I want to add more meals, if I need to increase my calories to get to where I'm going, we can slowly start to integrate certain things and then turn those into habits.
Slowly.
But we don't want to jump right in and then have that, like I said, negative connotation that like, my gosh, this is too much. I'm going from not eating, like eating one meal a day, or I'm going from eating a ton of food to like trying now to like force myself into this bottleneck. It's not going to be good from a psychological standpoint, and the person will never be able to stay consistent with that, right? It has to be something that the person enjoys. You gotta enjoy it.
Nice.
Yeah.
So now, going forward, you work a pretty good amount of years, good life as a personal trainer, and now you own your own company, healthn.e.s.s. So like, can you just like break it down? Healthn.e.s.s, because that's one thing that you've done me, and it really helped me towards my results in the gym, because I was doing most of the things right, but I was lacking doing some other things, like sleeping was one of the things I wasn't doing right. And when you don't get enough rest, you lack of stress, you know what I mean? And that could
Well, here's the thing, like maybe not from like just, I always hear like a lot of people say like the right thing and the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Now here's the thing, like I don't necessarily believe in right or wrong.
No.
I know that sounds weird, right? I believe that like there is right or left. It really depends on where you're going.
Is it because we all have different bodies?
No, because we all have, well, partly that we all have different bodies, like we have different morphology pathologies, so like how we were born or whatever's happened to us over time, but also because we do have different goals.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So if someone told me I'm happy where I'm at, everything's going well, and their squat looks questionable to me, I'm not going to quote unquote fix that. They are happy. Why would we need to change
Happy, no injuries?
Yeah, they have no injuries.
Okay.
They're getting what they want from training, right? Like for me, it would be like, you're good.
So what if someone comes to you and then say they're happy, but they hit a plateau, but they wanna, they not get into the other goal. Let's say they just hit they want to get to like a certain amount of weight, and they seem to like just stuck, but they're happy happy with the results, but they want to.
Well, I think that's the thing, right? Like if we like, I think when it comes to like results, like we do get tied to the aesthetical value, but results can also mean like performance, right? So like this person saying to me like, I'm happy with my aesthetical results, but I want to be able to increase weight. That automatically tells me he wants to go in a different direction. It means he's gonna have to do something different to get a different result, right? And so then my job as a trainer, if we're looking at it from that specific example, it's more like, okay, like where is this guy starting from? What are the limitations? I gotta figure out what are the things that are stopping him from getting where he's going. And then I give him some examples based on his specific circumstances, right? So then, but those circumstances might not work for someone else. It's really hard to find like a cookie cutter approach in anything, I think, especially when it comes to the human body and psychology. Like it's very difficult because it's so subjective on how we feel, what our goals are, where we're trying to go, right? So having like that, I think, like I said, like right or wrong standpoint, I try not to do that because it's, I mean, I could go into the gym and see someone like, quarter squatting, and like that to me, just looking at that without context could be like, this guy's not doing it well. But without the context, right, behind like where he's trying to go, what his, pathology, morphology is, like I can't dictate if he's doing the right thing or the wrong thing, right? And then once you start to understand like these trail marks of like, okay, like this is a path, and based on my experience and credentials, I know that this might be the best path that this person could take, you still might not get it the right way, right? You might just get as close as you possibly can to the target. right?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
So I think one thing to always like kind of like deduce is I think when it comes to psychology, and this is my opinion, psychology like applied biomechanics, like nutrition, anything like that, anyone that talks in absolute, like get the hell away from them. Like anyone that's like, I have the absolute answer, like run the other direction, right? Because no one has the answers, especially without context, especially without knowing what this person is actually going through, where they're going, what they're trying to accomplish.
This is why there's so much more to learn when it comes to like your training, right? Your training journey, because I thought I knew a lot, you know what I mean? And when I did the personal training course, it's just like, wow. I was like, literally, I was speechless because I thought I knew, like, I thought I knew a lot at all.
But believe me, man, even me,
Yeah.
like 6 years in, like going on 6 years, man, like every time I learn something, it's like, it's like I opened another door of like more things I don't know.
Right, yeah.
Like when you don't know that.
But like
that,
you as a personal trainer, you learn so much.
I have.
You learn so much.
Like I would say that like, yeah, like I've learned stuff and I probably would know a little bit more than the average person.
Yeah.
But like it's crazy, man. Like you do a course or you do like a certification and like afterwards you're like, I'm not so sure I knew what I was doing before. Or you start to question, like you're like, man, there's so many levels and so many doors to this. You think you've mastered a thing and you're like, no, there's another door here. And then you're like, there's 2 doors now. And then you're like, there's just more knowledge, right?
Yeah.
So I think like capping yourself in like, even as your own self-development, like capping yourself in believing that like you've attained like the top pinnacle like level of knowledge, like only limits, it's a ceiling, right? It limits you. Right? But when you know that like there's an astronomical amount of knowledge and I can't even feel the ceiling, it gives you an opportunity to grow and build.
That's great, man. That's great. So, like one of the things that...
So I just wanted to quickly interject and just try to simplify everything that he said. Just in general, to simplify things. Training is something highly personal. Everyone has different profiles and you can never really know everything towards everyone's way of building their body to a certain level.
Yeah.
There's no limits.
That's right. That's right.
Alright, go ahead.
Yeah. So, what I wanted to say, what made you the decision to go on and start on your own instead of working for another club? When you made that decision, was it 2 years ago?
2 years ago,
2
yeah.
years ago, you made that decision to go on your own and just work for yourself instead of working for a club.
Well, the first thing was I really enjoyed my experience at a bigger commercial gym at A Good Life. Like it was an amazing experience. I got to meet incredible people, some of which I still speak to this day.
Yeah.
I got the ability to build experience, right? Because the thing is that like you can understand things in theory, but when you're forced to apply that to something practical, it's a different playing field, man. Like I listen to this guy and that I look up to, Jordan Shallow, and he says, he's like, it's like you can look at like a textbook, right, of like the inside of someone's arm, and it's very 2-dimensional. It's like, okay, yeah, you see the veins here and you see the bones. You open someone's hand for real, or arm, it's a mess in there. It doesn't look the same as it did in the textbook, right? So I think it's the same notion that was applied to like my experience working at a bigger commercial gym. I think that was absolutely critical for me being where I am, where I'm trying to be with my business today. And the reality was that like not only the knowledge from a practical aspect, but the ability to learn from other people that were there was like incredible, right? The manager I had at the time, this guy, his knowledge, to me anyway, when it comes to like the business and the operating side, was like second to none. And so like, I don't think that I would have been able to even think about going off on my own as a trainer had I not had the opportunity and the experience from there. But I think what made me decide to make the transition was that I had certain things that I wanted to do that I was limited in doing there.
Okay.
So it's kind of like, you live at your parents' house, right? And you have house rules you gotta follow.
Yeah.
And your parents are like, well, if you want to be able to do this and that, you gotta go live on your own,
place,
right?
yeah,
So get your own place. So
yeah.
it was kind of like that. It was kind of like leaving my parents' house for the first time.
That's great, man.
Yeah.
And the name of healthness.
Yes.
How you come up with that name?
So funny story.
Yeah.
At Good Life, when we used to do a fitness starter or a package or anything like that, where we get someone initiated on training, right? We would take them through this like series of questions that would allow us to understand more about their life and things like that.
Yeah.
And then I started seeing like the segments where it was 4 pillars, right, of health, which was exercise, sleep, stress, and then nutrition, right? So like I really like that. And there was always like, for me to get clients to where I wanted to go, that was always like a big thing. Those 4 quadrants always had to work in tandem with each other in order for them to get results.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that like I liked that notion so much, but I took the stress part out of it because for me, I don't think people need to learn how to manage stress. I think they need to learn how to perceive things that are stressful to them.
Okay.
Right?
Can you explain that more?
So a lot of people, I think, when they look at their surroundings and they look around them,
Okay.
to be able to then, I guess, like to find a way to like manage the stress or quantify it, or like how can I like change my circumstances, things like that, right? But the reality is that you are always going to have a certain level of stress. Like you can't run away from it. It's not possible, right? And so I changed the stress part to spirit, because spirit for me is the thing that pulls you. The thing that pulls you towards your life, what you're trying to accomplish, that regardless of the stressors that are coming in your life, you've learned to perceive them as a stepping stone to get to the next position.
Could another word for spirit be like motivation?
It could be motivation, but I would more or less say that it's actually the thing that brings out the inner person. So kind of like we were talking about fulfillment earlier, and how what the best way is to find your fulfilling purpose in life is by knowing yourself. I would for me, spirit is knowing yourself, and when you know when you get into a position where you get to know yourself more, you're pulled to the things that bring you fulfillment, right? And that gratification over time. And then all these stressors that you have in your life flatline, because regardless of what's being thrown at you, you can take it. And that's part of working out, right? Because like we actually have to damage our muscles to make them grow.
That's right.
Right? So you have to be able to take on those stressors as stepping stones to be able to get to the next position. And so part of that is finding out who you are through those stressors, through those barriers, and seeing them as a blessing to get to the next position. Right?
That's great.
And then the health part,
Yeah.
it was going to be fitness, but I made it healthness. Initially, I was building an app. The app was supposed to be a combination of all these practices. I'm just one portion. I'm the exercise portion. I give advice on nutrition, right? I help those build a template based on what they do when it comes to nutrition. I help them with sleep. I help them with spirit. But I wanted to implement all of these different practices into one app and make it one service, right? Which is why initially I built my podcast, and why I have all these different fitness professionals coming on the podcast, because it was initially supposed to be a platform for health, overall health, mental, physical, all aspects, right? And so like in a way I'm kind of doing the same things, even though my scope is in performance with exercise. Over time, which I'll talk about later on what I'm doing and building in the future, is a platform that allows me to be able to integrate all these other practices with all these other people. But that was the initial concept of my company and why I called it Healthness.
That's great, man. Because I remember when you were like breaking down healthness to me, and you were like, and I was kind of like thinking about it. But am I doing all these things? You know, like the exercise, sleep, spirit. You know, I was doing most of the things right. But when I saw the word sleep, that was one of the things that I was lacking the most, because I'm a routine guy. I'm always up at the same time every single morning. But going to bed, it was always different times. You know what I mean? So I was really lacking sleep, and it's got to the point when you as you get older, that really affects you. When you're younger, you can kind of like get away with it a little bit, but as you get older, it kind of affect you. But when you mention that, you kind of have to make sure you're doing all these things right for you to see for you to reach your full potential, to you to really achieve your goals that you're setting in the gym. And that really helped me a lot, you know what I mean? So I started really focus on that. This year was the year that I was like, I have to go to bed, eat earlier, so I can really focus on my
Well, a lot of people
rest.
always ask me, they're like, which one is the most important? Because you'll see some places, they say like 80% of what you look like is what you eat and stuff like that. I'm like,
Yeah.
great. Whoever has the solution on how I can work out less and eat better and stay looking like this, please give it to me. Like, get someone to get me that
Yes.
meal program.
Yeah.
As far as I know, they all work in tandem with each other, and it really depends on like, when it comes to like the nutrition, the sleep, the spirit aspect, like it's like those work in correlation to what you're trying to accomplish with exercise.
Yeah.
And it's like they have to balance out, right? Like a lot of people, like if you can get really good quality sleep in 5 hours, but you're not exerting that much daily, and you have a very calm demeanor, which would be considered parasympathetic most of the time, then you're not really utilizing that much energy. You can function well. But if you're a very busy person, you're running around, you're working out high intensity, you're doing all these different things, you're stressed out, right? Like, then you might need more sleep. It doesn't mean that like, you can't sleep 5 hours. You might need to take drugs. I don't recommend it to get you to get better quality sleep in 5 hours. But it really has to work in correlation to what you're trying to accomplish long term. So once again, like I never look at it like from like a position of like, is this the right thing? But when I was giving you advice for what you were trying to accomplish, which was to build more muscle, it's like, if we're looking at it from that perspective based on your lifestyle, absolutely, we got to get in more sleep.
Yeah.
Right?
So simplify things. The energy that you outsert, the same energy needs to be inserted in rest and recovery.
Yeah. I always say that, like it always works in life. I think most of us wish that we can get stuff without having to put in. You have to put in just as much as you're expected to get back. I mean, on both spectrums. Like if we go outside of this realm just a little bit, like when it comes to like relationships, right? Like I meet all kinds of people all the time, and sometimes you'll hear guys say, I want a wife that will cook, clean, this and that, and be a traditional wife, but like they're not bringing enough money to like take care of the whole household and take care of her bills, so they can't expect her to just work and cook and clean and do. Come on, it's got to make sense, right? Same thing like from like the girl's perspective, they're like, I want a man that's gonna provide, but it's like, you're not a traditional wife. So like you want a traditional man, but you don't want to, right? So like, or same thing with working out. Like, can I just work out once a week and then I can get like a 6-pack? It's like, no, right? You got to be willing to put in what will qualify for the results that you're trying to get out of it. And that kind of like, once again, segue from like the lifestyle perspective of those habits that we're talking about. It's like when a person says to me they have a specific goal they're trying to accomplish, we don't work towards that goal. We work towards building the lifestyle that it will take for them to get to that goal. That's what we're doing. We're slowly building based on their circumstances and where they're trying to go. Let's build a lifestyle and a habitual system over time that'll allow you to be able to get there and that you can stay consistent enough with.
Yeah, so this might be a 3-part or 2-part question. So how long have you been a personal trainer?
Almost 6 years now.
6 years. Have you seen any difference in terms of the goals of your clients? Because I'm specifically asking this question in regards to social media, because social media affects the way that we view ourselves and review other people, and we wish to become like them. So based on the clients that you had recently, or from 3 years from now, have you sort of noticed a change in their goals in terms of wanting to be like an influencer or a celebrity?
Well, here's the thing, like as a personal trainer, I think you tend to meet the people, or the people that start training with you tend to be the people that need personal training and not want it. I think like the majority of people that do watch social media are expecting, or that get inspired by watching people on social media with like, 6-pack abs, or like they're super jacked, or they look like me or Jelson. I think those are just based on wants. So when we start talking about the commitments involved, it's not a priority. It's just like, it would be nice. Just like it would be nice to be someone's wife. Like if you're a girl and you want to be married, you're like, it'd be nice to be someone's wife. But like when you start understanding the responsibilities that come with being a wife, it's like, it would just be nice to be a wife.
Yes.
I don't actually want to be one.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So it's like, it's the same thing with their fitness goals. They see the 6-pack abs. They're like, it would be so nice if I can have that. But then when I tell you what it takes, you're like, no, I don't think I'm gonna do that, right? So I tend to meet people that like have gotten into that position that this is a need now. Like I've either seen a doctor that's told me like, hey, I need to start doing this, otherwise like I'm gonna die sooner than I want to, or my quality of life is gonna go down sooner than I want it to, or it's like something in my life is like telling me consistently every time, and it's depriving me emotionally that I need to do this.
Wow.
Right? So yeah, from that spectrum, I don't think that over the years that's changed, especially like I said, when it comes to like financial commitments and just regular commitments daily that person will need to take in order to get to where they're trying to go.
Okay.
That's great, man, because now just moving on, you have so many other great things that you do. You also have a podcast. Now you on what episode again? You said
I think like 21. The podcast, like all the other things that I do,
yeah,
are kind of like smaller segments of like a bigger picture, right?
So like what you're doing is everything that you're doing outside the healthness. You're doing everything else to be part of.
Yes. So it's like there's one goal, which is like, and I think like all these other things kind of came up as I was doing my business, right? So it's like I was doing personal training and I found myself in a position where I would have to say certain things more often and repeat it. I was like, what if I built a platform that I can say it and then just refer my clients to that? Right? And then I was like, great, let me do that. Then it was like, okay, like, now I want to be able to meet more people, and what's the best way to get people's attention? I've actually tried walking outside and just being like, hey, how are you? Like, you know, I'm a personal trainer. I'd like to talk to you about like, do you work out? Things. I started doing that, and I was like, okay, let me just go on social media, right? Because my favorite thing to do is to just talk to people, just have a conversation with people about their fitness. Right. This is something I'm passionate about, right? So yeah, absolutely. Like all these different things that I've been doing and that I am doing are all kind of like segmented from that one particular thing that I'm trying to do, which is get people's lives better through fitness.
Like I actually wanted to thank you for allowing me to be on your podcast, because that was my first podcast. Because I remember looking back, that was like because I set goals every year, so for me to reach that goal to be on your podcast, man, when I look back until this day, I remember even like just a couple days ago, just listening to the podcast, how much progress that I made, you know, in terms of like speaking and stuff like that, man. You know, so thank you for allowing me to be on your podcast, on your platform, and now just like for you to be on our podcast,
yes, on yours, you know what I mean? It's like it brings it back full circle.
Yes, you know, so it's great. So any future projects that you are working on?
Yes, absolutely. A couple of things actually. Number one, I've just launched the Fitness Initiative program. What I've done is I've separated fitness coaching and personal training. The mistake that I used to make before was trying to be a personal trainer and then a fitness coach all at once, which is why I'm the healthness coach now.
Oh, okay.
Right? Like I went from being a personal trainer to a coach. And the reason why that's happened is because the majority of the time when I meet someone, it's like, okay, what are your fitness goals? I want to lose 50 pounds, or I want to build like whatever X amount of pounds in muscle. And it's like, okay, so what is your lifestyle like? I sleep 2 hours a night and I eat nothing but like jujubes every single day. And like I don't drink water, I drink alcohol and soda. Like now I've taken on the responsibility of slowly building this person's life around fitness while trying to personal train them. Okay? Personal training.
So what's the difference between coach and personal training?
Great, this is an amazing question. So coaching would be you're actually taking someone from where they are psychologically with their habits, and you're trying to build a fitness template, a lifestyle around just being healthy, right?
So you consider myself as a coach instead of a personal trainer, because what I do is kind of like
Yeah,
somebody,
I would say coach. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like hold
Inspires.
somebody accountable.
Yep.
Help somebody build a routine.
Yes.
Or inspire to a motivation, or you know what I mean. So
you're a coach. Yeah.
A coach. Okay.
Personal trainer would be someone that focuses mostly on personal training, which is exercise.
That
so
know every type of body.
yes. Applied
every type of
biomechanics.
exercise that you need
That's
to work
right.
on. Okay.
Making a palatable system that is geared towards fitness and programming those exercises, making small tweaks to lifestyle. Right? So like when you come to a personal trainer, it should be like, this is what I do daily. These are my workout times. This is what time I go to sleep. This is what time I wake up. These are the whatever 3 meals that I eat. And a personal trainer should be like, okay, these are the things that we're going to tweak in order to get you to where you're trying to go. So a personal trainer can get someone to near athletic levels.
Yeah.
That person that's like, I already have like a lifestyle build, but I want to be able to like deadlift like X amount of weight over my own body weight. Or I want to be able to lose like, you know, X amount of weight as quickly as possible by whatever time frame. So it could be like, I want to be able to lose like, you know, 20 pounds by like August, right? That would be personal trainer. Fitness coach would be more something that's more long lasting over time.
Nice.
Right?
Yeah.
So what we've seen happen is that like it's very difficult to be able to be both, right? Because you're programming workouts for a client that is in a position where you can't really push them to near athletic levels. You can't, because realistically, like if we're talking about recovery and how important that is, they're not recovering effectively. They're probably very stressed out from work and don't know how to deal with that and how to perceive that as a stepping stone to be able to be stronger and feel more at ease in the day, so that when they do work out, they're not like taxing their system, right? Getting enough sleep, things like that. So what I've done is I've created a system that allows people to gain access to fitness coaching so that I can develop their lifestyle around fitness. They get workouts, they get everything that they would get with personal training without the programming concept of like a fitness plan, right? So in a fitness plan, it would be like, this is how I'm going to get you from point A to point B using this exercise program, and we're going to change the program this many times in order to make sure that you're not plateauing and that we're actually changing effectively. That would be personal training.
Nice.
This would be more geared towards, let me teach you how to develop habitual skills. Let me teach you how to be consistent. Let me make sure that you stay quote unquote motivated through building that habitual system, right? This kind of segues into like my next project that I'm doing, which is going to be filmmaking. I'm going to be making like media, right? Because as mentioned, we've talked about that reward system, right?
Okay.
And if I'm trying to do fitness coaching, where I'm allowing people to have a palatable system with exercise, they need to have a reason to continuously look at my app. They have a reason to continuously look at my app, and then they're building points every time that they do these habits, where they can get prizes and be able to win Amazon cards to buy things that they want and things like that. It puts them in a position to feel motivated to continuously go in and do those tasks till it gets to a point where they just do it, right? So that's kind of like the biggest project that I worked on. The website's built, everything is ready to go. I have like, I just started it on Friday, and I have over 10 clients that have been using it so far.
Do you mind sharing the website so we can?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'll give it to you guys. Yeah. And I had 4 clients previously to launching this thing because I wanted to make sure that it was the best that it can possibly be.
Okay, so it's
And
ready to.
It's ready to go.
Oh.
And my clients are having a very good time using it. I think that that's figuring out what does this person like eating that we can incorporate into their, daily nutrition. If it's a recipe that they want to be able to learn. If you don't know how to cook, I teach you how to cook from like the ground up. I show you like this based on my experience. I'm going to suggest that, based on what you like, I'm going to suggest this meal, and here's the recipe. Here's how you make it. Super simple, super easy.
So you're doing like visuals and instructions.
Visuals, instructions. People get the recipe ideas. They get recipe videos. They get access to being able to talk to me every single day, right? So
and you clients can just really use that too.
yeah. So I do have
great.
a client right now that is doing a combination of in-person training and that. And the reason why she does the in-person training is because she wants to be able to maintain a certain level of consistency because her lifestyle fluctuates consistently. right?
Yeah.
So she's a nurse, so it's kind of like her hours are all over the place. So it's hard to build that habit.
Yeah.
So she wants to maintain consistency. She needs accountability. So she has me, but then she also has that accountability system with the fitness initiative program that allows her to stay on board with her fitness and allows her to feel compelled to be like, hey, I got to get certain things done. And I'm in contact with them every day. So I get access through my app that tells me, what did you do today? What did you eat today? How much water did you drink? How was your sleep last night? What did you see what I mean? So
That's
it
like
allows me to be,
it's kind of like you're holding them accountable too.
Yeah.
At the same time.
so I'm holding them accountable. It's fun, engaging, and they build that reward system. And I think that was the missing link for me, right? Because I tried online training before, but I really couldn't find value in me just programming a workout for someone. That was just my thing. I tried it before, and like I said, from a lifestyle perspective, I would always help a ton of clients do that. But over time, it would be very tricky to be able to do my online training business and then train clients one-on-one. It's like you're working like, a 5 to 8 hour day, right? And when I say 5 to 8 hours, it's like it's spread all across the board, right? Like you can be at the gym for like 12 hours, but train 5 clients, right? You come home, you don't really have the time. You have your own life that you're trying to, live as well. And to be able to come home after that, 11, 12 hour shift and be like, okay, now I'm going to message all my clients afterwards and find out how their day was going and did they eat and stuff. Sometimes I've found myself in positions where a client would send me a picture of their meals and I didn't even get the opportunity to read it or see it before their next session. This allows me to be able to see everything. It allows me to be able to have access, and they see in real time that I've seen their meal. They see in real time that I've seen how they slept, right? So it allows me to be able to develop that system of being able to hold them accountable, keep it fun, engaging, and they have access to so many different workouts. Because what I've done in there is I've put different types of workouts. Whatever workout you like, I'm collaborating with other trainers. So I just launched a snatch training system that me and Coach Zhang at my gym launched, which I'm not a weightlifter. I don't do any sort of like Olympic lifting or CrossFit. He specializes in that. So we made a program specifically for those who want to try doing a snatch, clean, and jerk. I have another trainer that we are doing. I do martial arts. I've done martial arts.
Help
yes.
Grow the platform.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've done martial arts. I do martial arts. I've done kickboxing for 5 years. I did a little bit of BJJ, but I don't know how to teach it. So I have another coach, Christian Kayla, who specializes, who's certified in teaching people how to do martial arts, do a fitness program that is based on martial arts. So this allows people to figure out, what do I actually like, right? Because it might not, getting to your goal doesn't have to be the gym. It doesn't have to be doing weights. If you don't like that, it could be martial arts. It could be dancing. It could be whatever else. As long as you're moving and you're consistent enough with it.
Exercise means so many
different things. So I really wanted to build a system that was palatable from a coaching perspective, that can allow people to feel like I'm doing something that I actually enjoy, versus like me getting into the gym and being like, okay, this is the only thing you have to do in order to get to where you're going. And it's like, well, I don't really want to come to the gym. I feel a little bit uncomfortable. If some people do the fitness initiative program and then they want to go to a gym after, they're going to feel that much more confident in themselves when they get there, because they've already been working out. They know the cues. I have workouts that allow them to be able to have a very good, stable foundation that allow them to be able to move fairly well. So when they're in the gym, they're going to look better than the majority of the people doing any exercises there.
Nice, man.
Right?
Yeah. So before we close up, I have one more question.
Sure.
Before, do you have any more questions?
Sure. I guess this question refers back to the quarantine period. Since the quarantine began, gyms have been closed.
I had the same question in mind, but go ahead.
People have found it way difficult to, keep themselves
In shape.
Yeah. Would you say that working out from home is less stimulating than working at the gym, where there's people around and you're much more motivated to do it?
Sure. I would say that our minds really kind of like attach to what, like we were talking about before before what we do each day, right? And those habits, right? So like if you know your home is the place where you relax and where you maybe watch TV, things like that,
You don't want to work out.
it's a little bit harder to get into the zone, right? It's like, I would almost say like it's the equivalent of like, you know, watching a basketball game on TV and then actually going to the arena and watch, or the basketball court and watching them play basketball, right? Like it's completely different. The energy, the vibe, and like psychologically when you're going to the gym, you know you're going there for a purpose, right? So there's a lot less distractions because you have like, unless, I mean, there's some people that go there on their phone, or if you know someone that's like talking to you and things like that. But even then, like from a psychological position, even if you go there and there's a social atmosphere where there's people that talk to you, you're walking into a gym to work out, right? I've even told clients in the past before, just walk into the gym, sit on the tanning bed, or go sit down on the chair. Yeah, because it teaches them to just get into that habit of just going in, right?
Really?
So to answer, so the answer, like your question, like, is it better to go to the gym? From like a psychological perspective, absolutely. From a physical perspective, not required.
So what's one thing that you could tell for people who are watching, who's trying to find a couple exercise just to stay in shape that they can do at home, you know?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's really tough to say what exercises, because the reality is it really, without the context, right? Like, I mean, in reality,
depends on your goal.
Yeah, it depends on the goal, right? Like, and it depends on what they have access to as well, right? Like, so if they're at home and they have no equipment, I might suggest different things. If they're like they're at home and they have equipment, or they have just elastic bands, or maybe they, you know what I mean? So maybe they don't even have a big space.
Like body weight exercise.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right. So like
calisthenics.
It could be anything depending on what they like, and maybe it might not even be a specific exercise. It could be like a specific movement. They like dancing, right? They like martial arts. Maybe they want to try boxing, right? So it's like, I think in the quarantine time that we're in right now, I think the first thing fundamentally is to figure out like, what is your ultimate goal? And then the second thing is like, what can I actually do at home right now? And that's why the Fitness Initiative program is so valuable, because it allows you to discover that. What can I do right now with the circumstances that I'm dealt? Whether it be like I'm traveling all the time or I'm stuck in a pandemic. What can I do right now that's going to get me that much closer to my goal?
Nice, man. So there's this thing that we do towards to conclude our podcast. We kind of go and analyze a quote, and we go over a quote. So the quote that we have today is, the only competition is yourself. What can you say? I'll start with Arturo. What can you say on this quote? What can you, any thoughts on this quote?
Right, so since we made a tradition based on the last podcast of starting off with our guests, I'll leave it up to him before I share
cool.
my opinion.
Well, we start with you, David.
So, I think, what would be my thoughts on that statement?
Yeah.
I think that it's absolutely, I agree with that statement. The only competition that you have is yourself when you look in the mirror, because the sky is the limit to what any person wants to accomplish, right? Anything that they want to do, they can. They just have to look at themselves in the mirror and say, what am I willing to do, or what circumstances am I dealt that I can start to then get myself in a position to be the best version of myself, right? That's the only person that you want to be able to have a race with, right? You can have idols and people that you look up to, but I think it's super important to know how far can I actually push myself, because I've tried knitting, man, right? Like, just to see, like, can I do this? I've done models, like, where, like, I put, like, models of planes together and things like that, right? Just to see, like, I want to practice something that I'm not used to see if I can actually do it well, which is why I can dance really well. I was like, I can't dance. I'm like, maybe I should try it, and then just take 30 minutes every day and try it. I want it to be the best version of myself that I can be, and I think that quote is something that, like, is lost in translation these days, because a lot of people are looking at social media and comparing themselves to other people.
Yes.
They're comparing themselves to ideas that are not realistic, right? Because a lot of people, when they see the surface, they see the success, but they don't see the sacrifice.
They don't see that. They don't show it, right?
That's right.
They don't show it, which is like...
Right? They don't. Like, it's like I posted a video on my Instagram the other day where my goal was to deadlift 495 pounds.
Crazy.
And
I've seen that video.
I deadlifted 495 pounds, but then I did a video afterwards where I showed people what I had to do. And I'm like, the things I had to do were probably things that the majority of people were like, I'm not doing that. Right? So the reality is that I think you have to absolutely look in the mirror and say, what am I willing to do? And what am I able to do with the circumstances that I'm dealt? And how far can I push myself to get to the things that I actually want to get to? That's not going to be a negative experience for me or something that I'm like forcing myself to do.
Yeah.
Okay, so for me, when I hear that quote, I think of another quote. The quote was, "I'm better than who I was yesterday."
That's tough.
Right?
Yeah.
And based on that quote, it basically states that your competition is basically who you currently are. So if you don't try to achieve something better, then you're basically the same person that you were yesterday. You're not really striving towards something, you're basically stagnant. And if you're stagnant, you're dying because you're not exposing yourself to different things out there. And so that's why your competition is you. So you gotta continue to do other things, expose yourself to new things so that you can grow, so you can become a better person, so that you're defeating your own competition, which is the current you. So that's how I take that quote.
Man, that's great. That's great. And the way I can define this quote, it's like I say these things in all my videos on my social medias, and I say it's another day, another bless, another grind, another day for us to better ourselves. You know, because I'm always trying to be better than yesterday. You know what I mean? So every day it's all about bettering yourself. So when you say that, you're really just trying to improve yourself. You're not looking anywhere else to say, I want to be better than that guy, better than that guy. Because when you do that, you're going to lose yourself. Or you're going to lose the race, because you can't focus on that person. You and that person are totally different. You have different journeys. What that person going through is totally different what you're going through. You know what I mean? That person probably stress-free and you're going through a lot of stress. You're trying to compete with him. You know what I mean? So instead of you focusing on yourself, instead of focusing on that person, you're just really limiting yourself. Yeah. You know what I mean? So that's one thing that that I try to tell people too, right? And people come to me, it's like, yo, I can't go to the gym because when I see all these big guys lifting 60, 30s, I'm trying to lift all this weight just to try to get close to them. But then I tell them, you can't compete with those guys because you don't know how long those guys be working out for. That person probably be working out for 10 plus years. And you just started working out.
Well, it's always this thing that I always say, like,
Yeah.
I'm always like, when you see like the old guy crossing the street when you're driving or when you're taking a walk when you're outside, that guy was a kid once. We always think that he was forever this old guy. He was a little kid running around playing, right? So it's like, I think people don't recognize the like I said, the sacrifice, right? That's put in place. But the number one thing is that, like, I think focusing on your potential is so much more important than actually walking into the gym and saying to yourself, like, because they're working on their potential, right? That's where they're trying to go, what they're doing, and you said it best, which is like they have different circumstances, and sometimes like it's not that they have less stress, but sometimes they just don't take on the stress. I remember my brother-in-law, he went through a situation that I would have been flipping out. He woke up in the morning, his keys got locked in his place. He had to get to work on time, and he didn't have his car keys to get in the car to get to work because the keys were inside the house. His landlord had already left for work, so he couldn't get anyone to open the door. But for him, and he cut himself in the process, like trying to get the door open. Blood is dripping everywhere. He calls, he's like, man, you know, sometimes things happen. He didn't take it on as anything. If he was comparing himself to someone else, he would have been like, kind of like me. Like, maybe I did something wrong, and like this is not supposed to happen to me. Like, does this happen to everybody else? And I started thinking like, right now, getting stressed out, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm so angry and like revved up, right?
Yeah.
But him, no problem. He doesn't take on the stress. Next position. I'm like, what can I do with the cards in the dealt right now? I'm just gonna make the best out of the situation, and I gotta get to work. Are you guys able to drive me to work? Or yeah, sure, yeah, no problem. That was his demeanor. I would have been going crazy. So that's why it's so important to never compare yourself to other people.
I think I can sort of summarize this podcast in short form.
Yeah.
Personalizing your individual path is very important because we all have our unique path, unique experiences. So try not to look upon others to imitate them, because what you have and the kind of things that you experience is completely different from other people. You can always look upon them in terms of the way they approach it, but always look upon yourself in terms of your weaknesses and your strength to best choose the right path for you. So everything is individualized, everything is personal to you, so focus on that.
You look at Nikes and Jordans, shoes, but so different,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You and I can build the same product, so different, because internally we are different.
Okay. Yeah, we'd like to end here the podcast. You know, we want to thank our second guest, David. Thank you so much
Glad being here.
for coming in.
Yes.
We appreciate you. Great topic, great podcast. You know, can you just mention your social media, your website? We'll maybe put that on the screen.
Sure, yeah. I'll
People
give you
want to
guys.
support.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll give you guys the information so you can put it in the show notes or the description. But my website is healthn.e.s.s.
Yeah.
You can find me on Instagram at healthn.e.s.s. I changed it recently. It was healthn for CND, but right now it's just healthn.e.s.s.
Yeah.
And then my email is david@thehealthn.e.s.s.coach.com.